Hello, and welcome to the third module in the Program Management Systems and Effective HIV/STI Programs for MSM chapter of the MSM Implementation Toolkit, or MSMIT, a tool that offers practical guidance for implementing comprehensive HIV and STI programs for gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men. This training is brought to you by MSMGF, the global forum on men who have sex with men and HIV. This third module, titled Planning and Implementing Comprehensive Sexual Health Services for MSM Part 2, is the second part of a detailed discussion of the steps involved in planning and implementing comprehensive sexual health services for MSM. After completing this module, you should have an understanding of 1. How to define a program management structure. 2. Some ways to ensure full participation of MSM in program management. 3. How to prioritize programming given financial constraints. 4. The importance of implementing programs in clearly defined stages to achieve wide geographical coverage. And 5. Ways to establish a supportive supervision system to encourage corrective action and continuous improvement. With this focus in mind, let's begin. In the last module, we looked in detail at the first major element of the scaled program design. In this module, you will be introduced to the second and third elements of scaled programs, organization and implementation. Let's turn first to program organization. A clear structure for implementation is essential for smooth program management, along with well-defined roles and responsibilities at each level of implementation, both within the program and outside for government, media, and medical services. The most successful organizations have a plan to regularly and clearly communicate the goals of the institution and contribute to each person's understanding of their role in achieving these goals. Regular feedback about the achievements or challenges are important for the entire institution. Note that if a government or a designated central management agency is not setting standards or requiring centralized indicator reporting, implementing organizations should work together to standardize a minimum package and centralize indicator collection in consultation with the government. The third and final major element in a scaled program is implementation. Implementation can be broken down into the following steps. Progressively ensure full participation of MSM. Prioritize. Implement in a staged manner. And establish a supportive supervision service. We will now go through each of these in detail. The first step in program implementation is ensuring full participation of MSM. Here are some steps towards meeting this goal. Programs should be designed to transition from doing programs for men who have sex with men to doing them with men who have sex with men, and ultimately to programs done by men who have sex with men. The focus on community empowerment should be constantly maintained by the leadership, as well as activities that enhance organizational stability. This includes working towards establishing robust organizations that can sustain programming, not just hiring MSM as staff, as well as transferring NGO staff responsibilities to MSM organization staff. The second step in program implementation is to prioritize activities according to funding availability. A common reality is that financial resources are often insufficient to cover all men who have sex with men in an entire country or area with the same comprehensive package of services. Therefore, programs must make choices about both the range and the manner in which interventions are delivered and their locations. This may be accomplished by varying the way in which technical components are delivered and by prioritizing those areas where there are the largest number of MSM and those at highest risk may be reached. Budget planning needs to take into account the subpopulations of men who have sex with men as well. Here are some ways to prioritize where to establish services in a scenario where there are limited resources. Aiming for areas with higher concentrations of MSM means fewer implementing organizations and lower management costs. These are the minimum services that a program should provide. Knowing HIV status is essential for prevention and care, and risk reduction commodities like condoms and lube are essential for prevention. Community empowerment is essential, as established earlier, as are referrals to services and addressing larger structural barriers. Take a moment to check your understanding. True or false? If there are insufficient funds to run a program, funds should be prioritized for limited services and populations. The answer is true. Programs must make choices about what programs are run where, depending on their budget. Areas with high concentrations of MSM and HIV testing and counselling are two areas that should be made priorities. The third step in program implementation is to implement and execute the program in clearly defined stages, which helps to achieve wide geographic coverage. The three major sub-steps in staged program implementation are listed here. They are: establish infrastructure, such as an office and safe space in target geographical areas. Implement services with continual quality monitoring and improvement, and shift towards making interventions and services sustainable. Within these steps, the first, establishing infrastructure, has a number of sub-steps. We will now have a look at each of these in detail. Mapping occurs in three progressive stages. To locate the highest concentrations of MSM, a central level planner can interview key informants in urban areas. This can include healthcare workers or MSM already known to the program. Once a general area is known, more detailed mapping is usually done. This can be done using the place method or a participatory assessment. This looks at how many MSMs there are, their risks and needs. Finally, social network maps can be used to determine precisely who may be reached by community outreach workers. The next step in establishing infrastructure is to designate distinct catchment areas for coverage responsibility. As far as possible, overlaps in geographic areas among organizations should be avoided, but this should be balanced against the size and subgroups of the communities of men who have sex with men assigned to each implementing organization. The next step in establishing infrastructure is to hire and train a team that can implement a multi-component HIV intervention for men who have sex with men, which requires a variety of skills. Presented here is a list of some types of personnel an organization might consider. The composition of this team depends on the services provided, how the services are delivered, the size of the community of men who have sex with men, and the geographic area being covered. The final step in establishing infrastructure is to identify and strengthen the government and private sector services. The role of the implementing organization will be to identify or develop non-stigmatizing, respectful service providers for referrals with the goal of one-stop service provision. Remember that establishing infrastructure is just the first step in staged program implementation. The next step is to implement services with continual quality monitoring and improvement. During this stage of implementation, the focus is on ensuring coverage of the community with services such as outreach, education, prevention, drugs and commodities, and referral to appropriate services, and improving quality. This rollout stage is a continuous process in which management at all levels reviews progress against targets and adjusts strategies and tactics as necessary. Mid-course corrections are made where necessary, based on new data, new approaches, or environmental or structural changes that affect programming. The intensity and quality of coverage increase as staff become more skilled in their positions. It is during this phase that flexibility and continuous program learning are extremely valuable. A large program should establish mechanisms for cross-learning. A strong monitoring system with regular reviews is essential to the successful rollout of services. It also signals to funders and the government whether programming is being implemented successfully, with fidelity to program design and coverage goals. The final step in staged program implementation is to empower men who have sex with men to participate and progressively build their capacity to implement the program themselves. This latter aim will make the program more effective and sustainable. Listed here are characteristics of a sustainable organization of MSM. The fourth and final step in program implementation is to establish a supportive supervision system. Presented here is a list of some characteristics of such a system. Regularly scheduled supervision meetings help create a data use culture that enables corrective action and continuous improvement at all levels, as well as independent problem solving. Further functions of supportive supervision, e.g. mentoring, include Before moving on, please consider the questions presented in this self-check and assess your understanding of the information presented in this module. This brings us to the end of the third module in the Program Management Systems and Effective HIV/STI Programs for MSM chapter of the MSMIT. To review, this program presented the remaining core steps required in planning and implementing comprehensive sexual health programs for MSM. This module is not intended to be an exhaustive overview of program management, but rather a presentation of specific aspects of program management that relate to MSM programs. In the next module, we will explore specific ways to build the capacity of organizations of MSM.